All right, good morning. How are we, folks? How are we doing? Okay, so today's training, I thought this would be a really good topic to bring you today because I speak to quite a few people who have struggles with things like urges and cravings and understanding what is actually going on for them, particularly when they mostly eat really, really healthy, but they have these times in their lives when these urges just come on so strongly. So this is really for you if you are someone like that. You struggle with food urges, and I'm going to call them urges more than cravings, okay? So whether that's the urge for certain foods like, say sugar, animal foods, highly processed foods, alcohol, even, whether that's the urge to order takeout instead of home cooking, whether that's the urge to go out to eat instead of staying at home, whether that's the urge to snack at certain times of day, like there's often a 3 to 4 p.m., particularly for people who have kids who come home from school at around about that time, or 8 p.m., the time that the kids go down to sleep. Bedtime snacking is another one for a lot of people as well. So it can be around that certain time of day as well. Um, or whether that's a massive urge that comes up for you when you're feeling a certain emotion. So, around a little bit of emotional eating, but for some people it's specific to certain emotions that they feel, not necessarily every time they're emotional. So, no matter what that urge is for, when it happens or why it happens, it is really important to understand first, so that you can learn how to master your behavior if you don't want to be caving into your urges and your cravings all of the time. So today I'm really addressing the brain urges, right? Not the sort of craving that you get, say, when you're detoxing from certain types of foods like, say, sugar, dairy, meat. They are really cravings that are driven by your gut bacteria dying off, and the gut bacteria that would process those foods, they're screaming to be fed, they're sending signals up to the brain going, feed us, feed us, feed us, feed us, feed us. Okay, so it's not that type of craving or urge that we are dealing with today. Um, no, this is more on how to. It's also This is also not going to be a training that's going to tap into just replacing the foods that you're eating with healthier versions either, because really that's still reinforcing the habit and not retraining your brain. That's almost like dealing with a symptom. Here's a sticking plaster to put over your gaping wound, instead of really getting to the underlying cause or understanding the underlying cause of what is going on and starting to reprogram that desire in your brain. So that's what this is going to be talking about, understanding what's going on in there, and a few ways that you can actually start to retrain your brain to make more conscious decisions around your food and not giving into these urges. Okay, so right, let's dive in. What's going on? I've got my green smoothie here. Is everyone doing the green smoothie challenge and the water challenge with me? If you are, let me know in the comments. Now, what's going on in this brain of ours when we have these really strong desires and cravings and urges for food or to do things that are not great for our health, not great for our weight? We essentially, logically, reasonably know that what we're doing is not helpful. So why do we do it anyway? Okay, so I'm just going to talk about a few clients of mine to start with. I'm not going to name names, but one came to me. She thought she was addicted to sugar. But what we've discovered is that normally comes on when there is something emotional going on within her. Usually something like a fear of not being good enough, a fear of not being loved, a fear of being alone, even in certain times when feeling heightened stress in the workplace. Normal stress was fine, but when she made that stress mean that she's at risk of being fired, oh my goodness, it would lead her to this desire, this very strong desire to eat sugary foods, particularly M&Ms. And so she had this pattern. Also, there was probably in the early days we identified some not eating enough, which was throwing up a massive hunger cue for her, and then that pattern had become just to go and get sugar to fill that need. But I'm talking more about the emotional pattern in here. When a certain emotion was triggered, then the desire to eat was there. And once the desire to eat was there, it was very difficult to stop. Another client notices that she has very strong desires to just throw away her goals and binge out on sugar when she's angry. Anger is the emotion that drives it for her. Another client, for her, it was really stress, the stress that would come up. But underneath that stress was all around the fear of failing, the fear of not being good enough. Another client, her pattern is not emotional as such. It's more when she's tired, so physically tired, and she has a desire to eat out. So at the end of a very long day, she's desiring a rest, and ease. She just wants it to be easy, and she also has a pattern of bedtime snacking. Like her brain tells her you might get hungry in the middle of the night. All right, so we've got bedtime snacking there and the desire to go out to dinner all the time when she's tired. And then another client as well. This was sugar. And there was a particular time of day. I think it was like morning coffee, for example, and it always had to come with a sweet vegan cake. So it's not always emotionally driven. It can often be time of day, it can be situation, it can be physical feeling in the body. There's just something that crops up, and bam, there's the urge to go and do something, to go and eat something that is not helpful, to follow through with a pattern that has become very familiar. For me, this is what I noticed personally, and this is what is kind of like a recent one for me. When I walk past a favorite local cafe, which I do most morning, my brain is screaming out to me, grab a cake, grab a cake, grab a cake. It's amazing. This cafe have these either beautiful banana breads or like sweet potato brownie or mocha cake, or and they're all vegan. And they're delicious and very, very sweet. My brain's just going, woo, go get one, go get one, go get one every morning. When someone mentions chips, say my clients might mention they had some chips, and my brain will, I just hear it in the background going, chips, let's go get some chips. It's hilarious. Or when it's a beautiful, warm, sunny day, I've got a great balcony space, and my brain goes, oh, some bubbles on the balcony might be nice right now. It could be 12 o'clock midday on a Tuesday, and that's what my brain will say. All right. So we don't have to give in to what our brain desires either. So let me start to introduce you a little bit to your brain. Essentially, you have two quite different parts of your brain. I mean, you've got many, but I'm going to just talk about the two main parts. You have a very old primitive part of the brain. This is the part of the brain that's been in a human's head since the dawn of time. Okay, it's also known as the animal brain or the lizard brain or the critter brain. And then you also have a human brain, also known as the prefrontal cortex. It's the part of our brain that is different to, it separates us from all the animal kingdom. It's the part that gives us language, the part that helps us solve complex problems. I'll talk about that in a moment, actually. So your primitive brain, its role, primary function is survival. It runs very efficiently, and it runs all of your unconscious programming. It runs everything that happens internally in your body. So your breathing, your heart beating, your organs functioning, your digestion, your immune system, all the stuff that we consciously, the conscious us, has no control over, right? It all just happens. It runs all of our unconscious habits, all of our unconscious thoughts, So all of the stuff that we do on autopilot, all the thoughts that we think on autopilot, how you brush your teeth, how you comb your hair, how you put your makeup on, how you drive to work, how many times have you driven somewhere that you go all the time and, oh, you don't even remember the journey, right? You got there and like, you were concentrating on something else, the podcast you were listening to, the car stereo, your to-do list, your shopping list, whatever it was. You got to where you were going and it's like, oh, I don't even remember the journey. That's the habit brain running that for you. You've done it so many times that you don't even need to think about it. This brain is also always on the lookout for danger so that you can address it and avoid it, and keep yourself safe. So this brain, the primitive brain, only has access to your here and now, plus all your memories. Like, it is concerned about keeping you alive in this moment. And because it runs on very unconscious and repeatable programs and patterns, this is also a very efficient, energy efficient part of your brain. It runs about 95% of your brain's activity, and it doesn't want you to change because, one, it knows that you're alive and you're safe with your current habits and patterns. And also, it doesn't want you to change because to change is very energy inefficient. Right? It wants to just remain energy efficient and keep running on all those habits and patterns that you have, including the foods that you eat, including those urges that come up for you. All right? They're all habits and patterns. Now let's look at the human brain. The role of this brain is to help you thrive. That's its primary function. It operates all of your conscious behavior, all of your conscious thoughts. This is the brain you learn new stuff with. It's the brain that you solve complex problems with. It's the brain that you make important decisions with. It's the brain that you set your future goals with. It's the brain that can actually dream and imagine and invent things that don't exist. All right, think of things like cell phones. Imagine primitive man showing him a supercomputer where you can talk to someone on the other side of the world that you just stick in your pocket. That invention, like cell phones, the internet, cars, flight travel, all the amazing inventions that we have today, were created with the human brain, right? Because this human brain can invent things, it can think of things that do not exist yet. This is why this is the part of your brain that you need if you want to set goals for yourself. You need to dream of a different future for yourself. Using your primitive brain, just accessing your past and determining what you're capable of achieving in your future will never get you there. All right. So this part of our brain is very, very smart. And it's able to conjure something out of nothing. It's able to create something that's never existed before. Just out of a thought in someone's mind. But it takes a huge amount of energy to run. It's very energy inefficient because it's not running on habits and patterns. It's all new thought processes. It's learning new stuff. And it only runs about 5% of your brain's activities. So one brain runs on repeatable programs, stuff that we do over and over and over. It's very energy efficient. Its primary focus is survival. It runs about 95% of what goes on in our brain. And the other is very energy inefficient because it doesn't run on programs. It's solving complex problems, making decisions, learning new stuff, dreaming. It can imagine things that don't exist yet. Its primary focus is to thrive, to grow, and to learn. And it operates about 5%. So why is this important to understand? Well, firstly, because they have very different agendas. One's about surviving and one's about thriving. And they often have arguments, right? A little bit like that angel and devil on your shoulder. The one says, oh, go on, you can do it just this once. And the other one goes, no, that's not going to help us get us to our goals. Oh, but go on, you want to, you're going to die if you don't. Yeah, I don't think we're going to die if we don't have the cake, right? So like little angel and devil on our shoulders. When it comes to your habits and your patterns, your brain does not want you to change because it is very inefficient to change your habits. And your urges and your cravings are habits. They are brain habits. So essentially, when you're trying to get past these or stop giving in to these cravings and their urges, you are trying to create a new habit. You're trying to reprogram your brain. Your primitive brain doesn't want you to change because it thinks you're going to die. You're alive right now with these habits and these patterns, so why would you change? You might die. Logical, right? No, that's not the logical brain. Your human brain wants to solve your complex problems, but it doesn't want to pick up the habit brain's problems either. It doesn't want to have to pick up the habit brain's work. It doesn't want to have to try and learn new habits, right? Because that's energy inefficient. So now you understand a little bit about the brains, what their primary functions are, what they run. So let's look at how they interact in the decisions that we make for ourselves. But first of all, let's look at why we make the decisions that we make. All right, and why we make the decisions in our life around everything we do, not just our food, is called the motivational triad. Have you heard of that before? I've got a piece of, I think, cat hair on my face. That's annoying me, sorry. So have you heard of the motivational triad? The motivational triad drives every single decision that we make. And it has been driving us and all living creatures since the dawn of time. Right? This is our motivation that helps us survive in this world. Okay, so let's look at it. There are obviously the motivational triad. There are three things that make up this triad. One is seeking pleasure. Two is avoiding pain. And three is conserving energy. The brain likes to conserve energy. We've already just learnt that. So pleasure. This can be anything that feels good, whether that's physical pleasure, whether that's emotional pleasure. When we feel happy, something tells our brain that that was good for us, good for our survival. We should keep doing. When something tastes nice, it tells our brain that was good for our survival. We should keep doing it. Anything that is like physically pleasurable, it tells our brain that was really good for us. We should keep doing it. It's good for our survival. It's good for the survival of our species. Anything that is painful, physical pain, emotional pain, anything that doesn't feel good to us, anything that feels off to us. When something is painful or doesn't feel right, tells our brain, hey, danger. That might not be good for our survival. We should stop doing it or we should avoid doing it. And then we want to conserve energy. We're always looking to do things more efficiently, doing something easier, taking a shorter amount of time, simpler, faster, expending less energy overall. The fastest way, the easiest way to seek pleasure, and the easiest way to escape or avoid pain too. The brain itself, we've just learned, is all about conserving energy too. It wants to run on habits and patterns because that is what is energy efficient. So this is the innate guidance system that has been guiding us all to survive throughout, since the dawn of time, basically. All of the other creatures on the planet are motivated by what feels good, what tastes good, what feels good, what doesn't taste good. And doing things very energy efficiently as well. That's what has led them all to still be here on this planet today. But when it comes to our food, how does this apply to our food and our brain? When it comes to our food, wow, we've got food that tastes so good. That's pleasurable. It tells our primitive brain that that's good for our survival and we should keep eating it. Food that doesn't taste good tells our primitive brain that it is not good for our survival, so we should avoid eating it. Think of prehistoric times. Things like ripe, sweet fruits. They told our brain that that was perfect for us. That's what we should keep eating. That tasted so good, so we should keep eating it. It's best for our survival. Whereas, say, bitter or tart foods, probably told the brain that they were likely poisonous and we should really stay away from them. We might die. Right? Our prehistoric brain was also hardwired in prehistoric times to seek calorically dense food. Because in some way, because we developed in the time of scarcity, our brain developed the desire, the pleasurable desire to seek high calorically dense foods. We had to fill up on as many calories as we could at the time when there was food shortage. So the primitive brain really does strongly desire, it links pleasure to high fatty, high calorie foods, right? Because it thinks it's the best thing for our survival. So if we think about this food world that we live in today, oops, sorry, I'm just bear with me a second here. If you think about this food world that we live in today, when it comes to our food, we live in this food abundance. We also live in a society that has purposefully tricked the pleasure centers of our primitive brain into thinking that all these foods that we have available to us, these concentrated foods, are really good for us. Now, our primitive brain thinks that they're the best thing for our survival, which is why we struggle to let them go, why the brain desires them so much. You know, we've got technicians in white lab coats spending billions of dollars to create what's known as the bliss point, which is the exact mix of sugar, salt, and fat that are going to keep you addicted to their foods and keep you coming back for more, right? And so that's why we crave these types of foods, even though they're not healthy for us. Our primitive brain is saying, "Hey, this is the best thing for my survival. I need to keep eating it," and the brain actually gets addicted. Our human brain, on the other hand, knows the truth. It knows that this food is not healthy. It can see the effect that this food is happening. However, we're not listening to our human brain. We're listening to our primitive brain. We're allowing it to drive um, our actions. We're not listening to our human brain and making conscious choices. Now, when it comes to things like energy efficiency as well, if you look at how sort of we're set up in this world today, everything is very efficient. Like if you don't like cooking, you don't even need to expend energy to get off your chair to get food. Now, you don't have to go to a store now. You don't have to create a shopping list. You don't have to go to the store. You don't have to cook your own food. You can just sit on the couch, pull up your phone, and order Uber Eats, and someone delivers it straight to your door. How energy efficient is that? Right? So society is really tapping into our primitive desires for pleasure, to avoid pain, and to conserve energy in these cases. And if we look at some of the other habits and patterns that crop up when people have urges, if you think of and we relate this to the motivational triad, if you think that cooking at home is a chore and it's tiresome, it's a pain in the ass, it's not very tasty, what you're doing is associating pain and energy inefficiency with that task. And if you think that going out to eat or ordering in is tasty and it's quick and it's effortless and you don't have to cook it and you don't have to do the dishes, then what you're doing is associating pleasure and energy efficiency with that task. All right. So guess which one you're going to choose? You're going to choose the one that avoids the pain and seeks the pleasure. Right. And if you also, take movement or exercise, if you think that going to the gym or going for a walk or, is going to be hard, going to be physically hard, you're going to be sore, you might embarrass yourself in front of other people might talk about you. What you're doing there is associating pain, emotional pain and physical pain, as well as, actually moving your body is energy inefficient, it's not efficient. So then if you also think that sitting on the couch and watching Netflix is more comfortable and easier and not putting yourself in harm's way, of course you're then associating pleasure with that and it's also more efficient, you're going to choose that. All right, so that is definitely primitive brain thinking, because it's not thinking from the future you. It's not thinking about what you actually want, what is actually healthy for you. It's thinking about pleasure and pain right in the now, and what is most comfortable and energy efficient for you right now. So If we let's get back to urges and cravings. We now sort of understand what happens with the motivational triad. We now understand the different parts of our brain, that our human brain is all about. Well, actually, I forgot to cover this part. The human brain is all about seeking pleasure, and avoiding pain, and reducing, I guess, energy in your future, right? It's the one that wants the best for you, whereas your primitive brain is all about seeking comfort, security, pleasure, and avoiding pain, and conserving energy right now, right? So there's definitely a disconnect between the decisions that they're making there. One is concerned just about now. The other one's like, no, this is the human brain is more like, no, this is best for us in the long run. If you make that food decision now, you're going to regret it tomorrow. Primitive brain says, I want it now. I don't care about tomorrow. Right. So let's get back to these urges and these cravings. If you have a pattern where your urges crop up, so it might be a time of day, say 3 p.m. It's often a 3 to 4 p.m. snack time that comes up for people. It might be 8 p.m. after the kids have gone to bed, or 8 p.m. time to relax. Dinner's done, the dishes are done. Let's time to relax and sit on the couch. Time for a snack. It might be bedtime snack. If your urges and cravings come from an emotion that you're experiencing, say loneliness or sadness or anger or stress or something, or if it's location or situation urge, like walking past a cafe and boom, the desire's there, or you go out for coffee and it's like, oh, I really want a cake with my coffee, or it might be Friday evening. And it's like, Friday evening means drinks. Come on. Or if someone just mentions food, like with my brain, if someone mentions chips, my brain goes chips, right? Your primitive brain, what's happening here? It is operating on a pattern that you have programmed into it. It says, okay, at this time of day, this is what we do. This is how we deal with this time of day. Food. Okay, you are experiencing an emotion. You are in pain. Here, therefore, how we get ourselves out of pain is to get ourselves in pleasure with food. That's the fastest way we know how. It is repeating a pattern. Most of the time, we're giving in to these urges that we have. Thereby, we are strengthening that habit. We're making that habit even stronger when we give in. All right. So if you've ever had your own pleasurable, oh, sorry, yes, and something that makes these habits and these patterns even stronger than just giving in, is creating a pleasurable story around these foods or around what is going on. Like 8 p.m. Oh, I love just sitting down on the couch with my husband in the evening, and we just sit down and we put a movie on and we have a little snack and we have a glass of wine, and that's just our wind down time. If you associate lots of emotional pleasure with what you're doing, it's going to make that habit stronger. If you associate a lot of pleasure about the actual food that you're eating, there's a lot of emotional pleasure associated with them, then it's going to be even harder to break. And what I mean about that, I think about one of my clients who was, sugar addicted. She saw sugar as her best friend. It was her emotional comfort. It was always there when she was feeling alone, when she was feeling down, when she was feeling sorry for herself. Another client, she had a very pleasurable story about cheese. She had a French heritage. She had lots of wonderful memories, eating cheese with the family. It's just a beautiful part of our family's history. And you can see this beautiful story, the beautiful, pleasurable story surrounding this particular food. Another client with alcohol, her story around alcohol was that it made her fun, it made her sociable, it made her the life of the party, so it built up the importance in her brain's mind. So when you layer this emotion on top of the brain's like physical addiction to it, suddenly that habit is very, very hard to break. So, but we can. How do we deal with this? The first thing is just be patient with yourself. Criticism and judgment do not help in these situations. Not at all. We lose the opportunity to learn when we're being very critical and harsh on ourselves. Just stay open to yourself, open to learning, being just very curious with yourself and why this is happening for you. You're not broken. There's nothing going wrong. You're just following through with what your primitive brain um, is driving you to do. Right? It thinks it's the best thing for your survival, so you are literally giving into it because in some way, you're not your human brain is not taking charge of the conversation because the primitive brain has been so used to driving that desire and leading you to making the decisions that you're doing. So if you think about everything that we do has a positive intention, that primitive brain just thinks that it's keeping you alive. All right. But we're not animals anymore. We don't just need to survive. We get the chance to thrive. But to thrive, we need to be using our smart human brain and be making decisions from that place, which can be very, very hard at first because it is changing a habit and it's inefficient. All right. So it's time that we start reprogramming that primitive brain. It can calm itself down, it can be reprogrammed, but we do that with the conscious mind. So get your pen and paper ready. Here's a few good strategies for you. I'm going to give you 6 strategies to getting through this, although there are many more, but I'm going to give you 6 today. 1 is to first calm your nervous system. If your urges and cravings are driven by your emotional state, you're highly emotional in terms of negative emotion or unhappy emotion, your stress response is activated. We just want to calm that first. All right. Just want to slow your breathing right down. You want to breathe deep into your diaphragm. You want to breathe in for a count of 5, hold for a count of 5, and exhale slowly for a count of 7. All right. Just do that 10 times. And that will help trick your nervous system, trick your brain into thinking that you're now calm because you're breathing like a calm person, and it's going to help flip that nervous system over from fight or flight back to the calm response. When that happens, your human brain will be back firing again, and then you're in a position where you can start making smart choices for yourself. All right. So that's number 1, and that's if your urge is driven by heightened emotion. If it's not, just start where we are here now at number 2. Number 2, just back on number 1. Back on number 1 too. I have done a training previously on allowing your emotions. If you are an emotional eater, for example, go back and watch that training. It will be sitting under the guides. And it will help you go through a process where you are able to sit with your emotion and you're allowing it to be there without pushing it away, without numbing it, without buffering it in any way. And buffering, by buffering, I mean eating or going and doing something else to avoid feeling it. So what this does is it helps you feel that emotion so that your primitive brain knows it's not going to kill you. You are safe, right? You're just going to allow it to be there in your body and experience it. All right, so it's a really powerful thing to also help retrain that primitive brain that experiencing negative emotion is not going to kill you. All right, so that is for you if you are more of an emotional eater. Just calm that nervous system first. Okay, then on to 2. If your urges and cravings don't come from any emotion, like mine don't seem to, that it's just like kind of situational or someone mentioning something or a time of day or, sun is shining. So number 2, so just like an emotion, an urge is not going to kill you. So what we're going to do is we're just going to allow it to be there. They're not a problem. Urges and cravings are not a problem. They might feel urgent and like we need to give into them, but it only feels urgent because that primitive brain is freaking out right now that you're going to die unless you give into it. You're not going to die, right? So what we're going to do is we're just going to acknowledge the fact that we're having an urge or a craving, and we're just going to allow it to happen. Oh, I know, it sounds crazy, right? It's like allowing somebody else to be in a cranky mood. Not trying to change them, not trying to calm them down. It's just like, just go and have a cranky mood. Just go and have a cranky mood in the corner and I'll talk to you when you're fine, right? So allow your emotion to be there. Allow that urge to be there. Don't fight that urge. Don't try and push it away. what we resist persists and it grows and it strengthens. So what we don't want to do is make it a problem. It's not a problem that it's there. It's just a pattern, a repeatable pattern, your brain just thinking it's trying to save your life. Don't say it shouldn't be there. Don't say it's a problem. All right. Don't fight the urge. Don't try and push it away. Don't try and do anything. Just allow it and witness it. Right? We're just going to allow it to be there. Allow that voice to keep going back. Eat the cake, eat the cake, eat the cake, eat the cake. Right? Just allow it to be there and just go, yep, okay, I hear you, I hear you. And we don't give in to them. So we allow the urges to be there. We don't fight them. We don't try and push them away. And we certainly don't give in to them. Right? Every time you give into an urge, you strengthen that habit. You're reinforcing to your brain that, oh, I threw up an urge, and you give me a reward by eating. Right? The more you get in the habit of allowing your urge and not giving into it, then the more you're going to actually start reprogramming that primitive brain to not expect a reward when it wants one. And the more that the primitive brain is going to realize that you are not going to die if you don't get it. So it's going to calm down. It doesn't necessarily mean that the urge is going to go away. So this is why we don't want to make them a problem. Yes, they may go away over time, right? Think of people who've given up smoking. Imagine how in the early days the urge to smoke would have been really strong, but after a few years, like they don't even think about it anymore. Yes, over time it's going to disappear, but we're not doing this so that it disappears overnight. Right? We're just doing it to start to reprogram the brain to eventually not throw up the urge anymore. Right? We're just not going to freak out over it being there in the early days. So, number 3, we're going to start just listening to what our brain says when it has the urge and we are witnessing what's going on. What are the arguments or the suggestions that are coming up? What are the justifications that it's throwing you? Oh, go on. It's just once. A little bit won't hurt. Oh, come on, you've been so good. You deserve it. Oh, but it tastes so good. I just want it. It'll make you feel better. You're going to miss out if you don't have any. Right? So just listen to what it says. Just acknowledge it. Thank your primitive brain for its suggestion. Right? And then you can go and say, like, is what that brain's saying logical and reasonable? Does it make sense? Often it doesn't, right? The primitive brain is not our logical and our reasonable brain. So here's the chance to put you, the conscious you, back in control of the thought patterns. And you can answer those thoughts that come up. Oh, it's just once, it won't hurt. Yeah, actually, this once will hurt, will impact my health because it's not just this once. Once, it's going to become twice and 3 times. It's going to be every freaking day. All right. So yes, it is going to impact my health. If it says, like, you've been so good, you deserve a treat. You go, yeah, I've been really good and I feel really great. Thanks. I feel really proud of myself. And I'd rather continue feeling like this. Thank you. If it says something like, oh, it's going to make you feel better, you can go, you know what? It's not going to make me feel better. If it says sugar, I'm going to come crashing down and I'm going to have a really bad sugar hangover at the end. I'm going to feel terrible physically and I'm going to really beat myself up if I do this. So, you know what? It's not going to make me feel better. It's also not going to solve my problem if I'm an emotional eater. If it says something like, oh, you're missing out, you go, you know what? It's not like I can never have this stuff. It's not like I'm going to miss out on this for the rest of my life. I'm just choosing not to have it right now, okay? And what am I really missing out on? If anything, it's going to be ill health and weight gain, all right? And I'm happy to miss out on that. All right, so get that logical and that reasonable brain involved in the conversation. We need to start dialing that guy up and start having a counter voice to that primitive brain who's trying to get you to eat, okay? What does your human brain have to say? Give them equal airtime. All right. Number 4, Let's start to switch your focus. And we're going to start focusing on, instead of now pleasure, which is primitive brain, we're going to focus on future pleasure, which is human brain. We're going to start thinking of the benefits of sticking to your promise to yourself. We're going to think about how proud and amazing you're going to feel for having followed through on your promise to yourself. Have yourself connect to a future version of you who has achieved your goal, and think about, how amazing they feel and what life is like in their shoes without this habit or this pattern. And think about the life that is awaiting for you. How can you step into being that future version of you now? How can you make decisions that align with that future you that you want to be, that you are going to be if you start making those decisions today? What advice would that future you give you here and now? All right. Focus on the pleasure that you get from following through on your promises to yourself. Think of the pleasure that you'll feel in your body, in your health, because you follow through on your promises to yourself. Think of how amazing you're going to feel being able to become the person that you want to be. If you start living into that pleasure right now, before you become that person, you really start to become that person before you become that person, if that makes sense. You become that person in your mind, right? But you need to tap into who that is first and start creating a pleasurable story around that now. And number 5, set yourself up with some plans for success. Like, if you know that there is a particular spot, or particular situation, a particular emotion that is your trigger, set yourself up for success in advance. Have a plan. Most of the time we go around in life without a plan to succeed. I've got a training on the importance of planning for success, also in the guides, if you want to go and watch that. So that will teach you why we want to have plans for success. So if you know that, like for example, I go for my walk every morning, my plan is I'm not going to have the cake. My brain's going to put up a little cry for the cake, and I'm not going to have the cake. That's my plan. Instead of just walking past and having a craving and then walking in there because I haven't set my plan. Right? Most of the time we don't have any sort of plan to succeed. We're just hoping that we'll make the right decision in the moment. Hope is not a strategy. We want to plan to make the right decision ahead of time. All right, make a promise to yourself, decide ahead of time what you will and what you won't eat, and you have a strategy and a plan to manage any of your obstacles in advance. Know what your obstacles are and plan your strategy around them so that you are more likely to succeed in the moment. And strategy number 6, this is a great one. I haven't tried it yet myself, but I would love to try it. This is an urge jar. So what you do is you have 2 clear jars, and you get yourself 100 coloured pebbles or 100 glass balls or something that will fit in one jar. You have them all in one jar to start with. And every single time you experience an urge, you allow an urge, but you don't resist it and you don't give in to it. You don't fight it, you don't struggle with it, you just allow it to be there, you just witness it and you don't give in to it. What you do is you take a pebble from one jar and you put it into the next, right? So it's like a little reward for your brain. Each time a new little pebble goes into that new jar, boom, your brain gets a shot of dopamine. Oh, I've done something good. Oh my goodness. Oh, I've done something good. And as you see that jar building up with the colored pebbles, your brain starts to really get excited by it. It loves seeing progress. Like, progress is good for survival, right? So it's going to start reinforcing that new behavior over time of allowing the urges to be there because it gets a reward, and the reward is seeing the little colored pebble move into the jar and seeing that pebble jar get bigger and bigger and bigger and higher, right? And then after experiencing 100 urges, and you've got 100 pebbles now in the once empty jar, you will have definitely mastered your food urges or your urges to do things that are not good for you. All right. So that is a great strategy that I would love to try. You can also do it with a list, by the way. Like if you don't have pebbles or jars or anything, and you like keeping lists, you can keep a piece of paper with 1 to 100 numbered on it, and every time you allow an urge, you write your urge, you write the details on it. Details of the date, when, where, what, where, whatever, what happened. Just write yourself some details, and the process of filling up that page, seeing it all fill up, and knowing that you are getting better and better and better at allowing your urges, not fighting them and not giving in to them, really helps reinforce that behavior in your brain, because your brain loves it. Okay. Hi guys, I see a few of you watching here. If you've got any questions, please do let me know. So I hope you found that helpful. I hope you found those 6 strategies helpful too. The main thing is just to really understand what's going on in the brain, why the brain desires certain things. It's all around pleasure, pain, and seeking comfort. Or sorry, pleasure, pain, and energy conservation. So the motivational triad, and then the different parts of our brain associate pleasure and pain in different ways. One wants pleasure and pain. Wants to seek pleasure in the now because it thinks it's good for our survival. The other one wants what's most pleasurable for our well-being. And they're always in conflict, like, oh, I just want the cake. Yeah, but no, the cake's not good for us. So it's just give yourself some space and some time to learn through this. I know it's probably a lot to take in all at once. And it might be like a whole heap of information for you all at once. But I wanted to bring you a short form training anyway, just to give you a snapshot of what is actually going on there, so that you know you're not broken if this is what you're experiencing at the moment. And I'm actually considering creating a short form group, maybe a 4 to 6 week, to help people master and understand and work through beating their cravings and urges. This is definitely something I work with my weight loss clients on, but we work on a whole heap of other things as well. But if you're not concerned with weight, or you just want to join a short form program to try and master this first, I am considering creating this. However, I would like your feedback. I would like people's feedback first on whether it is something that you would be interested in. Okay, so I'm not going to go and do the whole work and create this new thing if no one's really interested in it. We do have Christmas and holidays coming up soon. So for any of you who really struggle with urges for, Christmas sugar or certain types of food around this time of year, it may be really, really beneficial to get on the front foot and learn how to master yourself around food first. So if it is something that you're interested in knowing more about or being involved in, please type in the comments under this video in capital letters cravings. Just put cravings to let me know that you're interested in maybe knowing more about that program or that workshop. And I will get in contact with you. It will be a little bit further down the track, but I just want to gauge the interest ahead of time so that I'm not creating something that's not really of value to people. But also, if you don't want to wait, and if your cravings and urges and all that sort of stuff are causing you pain right now, or contributing to weight gain or stalling your weight loss success, then let's have a chat now. Let's not wait for a program that may or may not happen. And let's just see if my plant power transformation weight loss program is going to be suitable for you instead. We will definitely cover all of what I've just talked about. And like I mentioned, there's so much more, like all of the other things that will go into contribute to healthy weight loss. So we will work through whatever is coming up for you on your journey, and driving your particular patterns that are leading to weight loss. Like I say, we don't just treat the symptoms, we get underneath and we treat the cause, so that this is a long lasting sustainable weight loss for you, so that the weight doesn't just come back on when you leave the program. You leave transformed. That's the idea anyway. So if this is you and you don't want to wait and you want to have a chat to me now about how I can help you achieve those goals sooner rather than later. We do have Christmas coming up. Oh my God, it's September already. There's Christmas just around the corner. Again, okay, if that's you, you want to have a chat now, just type in capitals chat now in the comments and I'll reach out to you. Again, we'll just have a chat. There's no obligation. I've got to make sure that I can help you first, obviously, right? I've got to make sure that the program's right for you. So yeah, just let me know. And if it looks like nobody's got any questions, so thank you, everybody. Also, if you're watching the replay or have more questions about this after we sign off, just type your question in the comments and tag me. Actually, if you type anything in the comments and that you want me to see, just tag me so that I see you, so that I see that, and I'll come back and have a chat to you. Okay, guys, it was wonderful. I hope to see you all later. I hope you have a wonderful day.